What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hardworking Happy Hour. I'm Sean.
And I'm Catherine, and as always, we'll be breaking down all things trades, entrepreneurship, and turning your creativity into a passion career. Sean?
Catherine.
We just both did the same dance move while we were dancing to this intro.
We did.
Music.
The old shoulder shrug.
Shimmy, yeah.
It's such a classic move. It's always a hit.
Always. Can't go wrong.
It's a good one. When you're not going to be like fully invested into the dance floor at a wedding, but you just want to kind of stand around the perimeter, just do a little shoulder shake. People love that. People really love that. So
I'm going to a wedding pretty soon, so I'll keep that in mind.
I don't know if it translates because you're going to Italy. I'm not sure how it plays in Italy. Dance
language barrier. Hadn't considered that.
So
I'll keep you posted. I'll let the people know. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep me updated.
All right. So what's going on? How you been?
Just excellent. There's so much exciting stuff going on right now. Honestly, business as usual, pretty much. We're almost finished up the shop build, but I will tell you what. These last probably, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks or so. I've felt a renewed sense of passion for design. Like I'm fired up about it again. I really am, and I feel like
What sparked this?
I don't know. You know, it things like this they go in ebbs and flows. Right. You know, it's not like at any point I was like, oh, I hate doing this, but you know, you get a little bit either distracted or you get caught up in other things. And I think it's easy to forget why you're here. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah.
So, I think I just feel this renewed sense of direction on design and remembering that this whole business is built on us building the coolest things that we can. And we don't have an opportunity to mail it in. We gotta step it up on every project, and that ultimately comes back to me. The idea has to be cool in the beginning. Yeah, we can come up with stuff on the fly. We can jazz it up. We can come up with cool little details, but just the design itself needs to exude inspiration.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I feel like I could feel this renewed sense of passion for design because we were just recently in Miami for a work trip, and there were on 2 separate occasions you were like, I'm going to take a picture of this so I remember this. Yeah. So I felt like you were really, it was really top of mind for you. Miami is definitely a different vibe than where we live, so it is easy to like see something that's like, oh wow, that's interesting, that's an interesting feature, I should remember this.
Yeah.
So
yeah, maybe that kind of helps spark it as well. Plus we're rolling into a new kind of design season. You know, we've been working through a bunch of projects that we have coming up, doing final details, tweaking the designs, things like that. And it's just got me really pumped up to do some cool stuff and get back to, I don't want to say get back to it because we've still been building some cool stuff, but really like make that the cornerstone of every project. Like really get into it and do the coolest thing that we can, even if that means it takes a little bit longer or we make a little bit less money, whatever. That is the thing that's going to take us to the next level. We've gotten here where we are right now because of what we did before, and to get to the next level, the job's got to be cooler. We got to come up with cooler ideas.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more fun. So I'm pumped up. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I'm pumped up. I'm inspired. Can you feel it?
It's radiating through this computer right now.
Wow. Hopefully it doesn't crash because it's a lot of vibration. It's a lot of high energy. So, how about you? Anything life changing? I set the bar pretty high here. So
yeah. I talked about before how like we've been working at your house for a little while. So it has definitely felt like a summer season. It feels like the break that you get when you're a student and you have like a summer. So we were doing things, obviously we were still working, but it definitely felt like a break in our normal programming, if that makes sense. So
100%. Yeah.
I'm really excited um, for these next couple of builds are exciting, and they're each one's a little, well, they're different than each other, but they are different than the things that we have done before. So I feel like it's just a new phase for us, and I'm really excited for the future.
Absolutely. And that's a really good point because I do feel like, having this little bit of a break per se, like we've still been working every day. We're just doing a little bit of a different project, working at my house, building the shop. And it just kind of gives you that mental break. Like one job ended and we did this thing that was different. And now it like kind of helps my mind shift into let's look at our processes. Let's change some things because we're not just rolling right into the next project. It's like we've been working the whole time, but there does feel like this definitive break that we had that sometimes you need to be able to pull yourself out and see things a little bit clearer and get a little bit more direction.
Yeah.
Just like reset your compass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And another school reference in summer, but like, remember when you were in seventh grade or whatever, and then there's the summer, and like next year you're like, I feel like an eighth grader now. Like you feel like you've leveled up in some way. I feel like
Yeah.
we're not at that level yet, but I'm excited because it feels like we're like at a new level. We're coming into a new
Yeah.
phase of things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's what used to happen when we would take off in the winter. It was
Yeah,
like there was a definitive end, and then it was like we have it's like a new season of a TV show. Like, all right,
exactly.
what are we gonna pull this season? It's gonna be wild. Having just that little break, I feel like maybe that's what really spurred it,
Yeah,
and I'm excited, and I can't wait. I can't
yeah,
wait to see what's next, and just feeling grateful that we get to do this every day. This is awesome.
yeah. And also, it was just my 3-year anniversary, so maybe that's also uh, adding to these feelings of like leveling up. What's next?
100%. Yeah.
So, all
100%. Yeah.
right. So, do you want to talk about what we're getting into today?
Absolutely. We're going to be talking about you did a little bit of research, a little read some stuff about your backlog and how far booked out you are, how that can be a predictor of things coming down the pipeline in the future. And I'm not totally sure what we're going to uncover there because you did the research there, but it's going to tie into some of the thoughts that I've had moving forward on our next set of projects because we kind of did catch up to our backlog a little bit, closest that we kind of ever have in the last, I don't know, 4 years. And that was somewhat intentional. But now we're rolling right back into a bunch of projects getting booked out and being booked out into next summer. And it's exciting. It's exciting. So I've got some thoughts on that. So I'll chime in with that. And I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation here. So
Yeah.
without further ado, go ahead.
Let's just get into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was, doing my usual perusing around the internet, and I stumbled upon this article about kind of measuring your backlog in order to use as like a future indicator, which I felt was really interesting because we were in this phase of post pandemic being booked out for a very long time, and not that we got comfortable or used to it, but it kind of did lulled everyone into this sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then from as most people have noticed, like the leads are kind of slowing down, or as we talked about, you have to kind of do more to woo the clients, or just the changing nature of things. And we got to a point where we weren't booked out super far, and I don't want to say that I freaked out. I didn't freak out, but I freaked out a little
You
bit because I
freaked
was
out. Of
like,
course you did. Yeah.
to me, it was just, you were very level headed and you kept saying everything's going to work out and it's fine. But to me, it was just, that to me, that's crunch time. That's when we got to sell. We got to figure it out. We got to make cooler designs. We got to do what we got to do. Because in my head, I was thinking about how our backlog used to work. And I was like, this is not normal for us. We need to do something else. But then I got to thinking like, well, what really is normal for us? Because our backlog isn't something that we've tracked in any sort of consistent or finite way. It's always just kind of in our mind, like, oh yeah, we were booked out this far a couple months ago. Before that, we were booked out this far, but we've never really sat down and tracked it and looked at it. And also, obviously, like I just said, this is only my third year in this, so I have only been here post pandemic, so I only kind of got to see that wave. So I found this article really interesting about how beneficial it is to track your backlog and use that as a future indicator. And not just so like where, obviously you're tracking your backlog and knowing like, okay, I booked these jobs. I know that I have those. But for future planning and strategic planning and how you sell jobs, and also just how you calculate things like these are how many people I'm going to need. This is the money I'm going to have left over. I can buy a new truck, or I can give A, B, and C person raises because I'm going to have that cash. Or, you can use it to track and indicate all different kinds of things. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting to think about that. And in this article, they give you a lot of different metrics and ways to track it, because you can track it and you can know, okay, I have $900,000 worth of outstanding business, but that doesn't really also give you that much indication on how much work you put into getting that. So in this article, it basically says tracking all this stuff, it helps you with your hiring needs, your manpower needs, your investments if you have investments. But most importantly, you need to track your sales cycle in addition to that, because without that information, you don't really have much to go on. You're just kind of saying, I have this much work. That's great. Was it easy to get? Was it hard to get?
So essentially, not only just your backlog. I think everyone understands the concept of a backlog. It's, hey, right now we're booked out 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 137 weeks, whatever it is.
Yes.
But, I think what you're saying is tracking along with that, the sales cycle of what is the average amount of time from lead coming in to lead closing and getting on the schedule, because you could be, if say your average lead takes 8 weeks to close and you only have 4 weeks of backlog and you don't have any current leads coming in, that could be a cause for concern. So that's really interesting. What did they say about tracking that sales cycle? Because that's something I hadn't really thought about doing too much, because you kind of think, hey, everyone kind of closes at a different rate, but there probably is an average, especially for people that are doing higher volume, that might be worth tracking.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of different things you can track. Like, if you want to kind of simplify it and don't want to get too lost in the weeds, you can just kind of take the month of August and say, we got this many leads. We sold, or we had conversations with this many people. We were able to sell this many jobs, and we are booked out currently for this many months. And we have this much money in outstanding payments. You can really get into the weeds and track all sorts of different metrics that would help you. But if you want to kind of just keeping it concise, maybe those 5 things would be best to start with, just to kind of give yourself the full picture of it. Because if you get too lost in the weeds and you're looking at it, then you're like, well, there's 1,000 different things here, and I have no way of knowing which line means what,
Yeah, especially if it's something that you've never tracked before, like jumping into it, you want to pick something that, number one, is easiest to track. Number two, one that you predict is going to have the highest value for you. So I think looking at, and a lot of people that use like a CRM are probably already, by using that, tracking it, but maybe not using those numbers to their advantage. It's something that you can probably print out a report on, but it might not be something that they're looking at. So for some people, it might be easier than others if you're already using that CRM and everything's going through that. But it's really interesting to kind of see, okay, this month I got this many leads come in, and track it from the origin of where they're coming from and when they came in to, what are those next steps and what does that close look like? I feel like it might also be really advantageous to look at that like a year to year kind of thing, because
Mm-hmm.
especially in construction, it's very seasonal. We're working year round, but a lot of times there are these times where, okay, the month of March usually is like crazy because people are just getting out of the winter and it's still pretty cold, but they're starting to think about summer. And that's when we get so many calls. So you can kind of look at those things, track it, and it can kind of maybe help give you some peace of mind if you're in February and you're like, okay, nothing is coming through. Our backlog is really dwindling. But okay, I look at it last year and March, we got 73 leads that came in. It can help you kind of seasonally see where you're at year to year and then follow those like longer trends.
Yeah, definitely. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about the situation that we've been in and how,
Yeah.
and maybe do
Let's
like a
get,
long term overview
yeah,
because
let's make it
you worked.
personal.
Let's make it personal because you've been in business
Confessional.
pre-pandemic, pandemic, post-pandemic. Obviously, a lot has changed in the years that you have worked, and you've changed and done different things. So maybe if you just kind of want to give us an overview and how you've
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
tracked these things
Well,
and maybe trends that you've noticed. Let's say
absolutely. So number one, I'm not a businessman.
you're a
I'm a
business
business man.
man.
Let me handle my business. Damn. Jay-Z. It's one of my favorite lines there. Okay, so looking at the backlog. So one thing that I've noticed, one let's touch on the fact that it, recently you were kind of like freaking out a little bit. You
Freaking
weren't
out,
used to.
man.
Yeah, you were freaking out. You were bugging out, like really, really bugging out hard about us not having as big of a backlog. And we were getting
Yeah.
really close to like, okay, we have this job. And then after this job, what do we have? And we didn't have anything lined up. And I think part of that was, I don't want to say part of it was because, just the industry in general and the demand has slowed down a little bit post COVID. I think we're starting to, everyone's definitely feeling that little bit of a decline in demand. And I think part of me wanted to get back to like that feeling that I had when I started out, where like I feel like I wanted to be in crunch time and like have my back against the wall and like see if I still had like, can I make it happen still
Mm-hmm.
when the pressure's on. So I think part of it was that I was just like not pushing super hard because it was like, I know when I need to get it done, I'm going to sell a bunch of these jobs. It's not a problem. So that's number one there. But going back and looking at it from a whole, basically past 10 years, starting out, obviously there wasn't really a backlog at all. It was, hey, there is no demand here. There's not a huge backlog. And after the first couple years, I'd say the first like 2 years were kind of like that. And then some demand started to ramp up. And I'd say our average backlog was usually, most of the jobs were smaller. So they were taking a week, maybe 2 weeks. And our backlog was typically, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks. What's that?
Uh, you keep saying the word backlog, and I feel like it's when you say a word a bunch and it like kind of loses its meaning. I feel
Yeah.
like backlog is doing that to my brain, and I'm like, also, why is it called a backlog? Shouldn't it be called a front log? We still haven't done those things yet. What? Why is it back? But anyway, keep going. That was just what was running through my brain.
That is, uh, that's such a deep philosophical question. Why is it called a backlog? I don't know. That's a really good question. And we will get to the bottom of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Anyway,
These hard hitting answers.
sorry.
So thank you for just really knocking me off track there.
Yeah, sorry.
So, uh, and then our typical backlog was like 4 to 6 weeks, and that was like pretty common. And I think that's probably a pretty common area for most people to be in. I'd say that are especially people that are doing more volume. Like if you're a roofer, or usually a roofer's not going to be booked out. They're never going to be booked out 6 months because like no one plans 6 months to get the roof done. It's like, I need it now. Now
Yeah.
I need a roof. So I think a lot of people can relate to that time frame. And that's like a really kind of comfortable place to exist in because you're not booked out too far. So you're kind of like in touch with that job that's coming up. It's not like it doesn't get tabled for so long, which I can get into the kind of challenges with that, but you sell the job and it's coming up in a couple weeks. So everything's still fresh in mind. It's right there and you're kind of like mentally in it the whole time. You don't have like this time to check out completely because once you sell the job, you know, you start on the permits, you are going through with the client on some material choices. So you're like really in it the whole time. And really once I'd say 2019, that's when the backlog started to get really a lot more extended, where we were booked out for 3 months or 4 months. And then when it got into 2020 and 2021, it was we were opening up our design season, and then we were selling out the entire year in a very short amount of time. So it's really evolved, and we've had so many different extremes on what the backlog was. So it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to, you know, especially in the moment, take a lot out of that and see what are the advantages of one, what are the disadvantages of that. Because, like I said, with being booked out a year, the thing that I've really struggled with is like, okay, there's a certain mental state that I'm in when I'm designing it. It's almost like I'm building it in my head when I'm designing it, and that is something that'll translate right to actually building it. But when you have that uh, initial part of the design at one point, and then you're not building it or ordering materials or anything for 9 months, it's like you have to open up that design again, get completely reacquainted with it. You know, even like remember some small details that you design that you're like, I can see this in the rendering. How was I going to build that? And um, that is a big challenge, especially for me, because it's just really stressful to be booked out that far and have that client feel like they can text you at any time, that they can email you because they've already put down a deposit. So
Mm-hmm.
being booked out really far, I didn't love that feeling. It's nice to have that job security and know that you're not going to be out of work anytime soon, but it comes with a host of other challenges. And what we've gotten to this year has been kind of being booked out, like I'd say an average of like 3 to 4 months, pretty much this whole year. And I feel like that has been such a good sweet spot for a couple reasons. Number one, like I just said, being like mentally in touch with the project and the client still, and you know, really feeling like the ball is kind of rolling the whole time, and you're not just putting it on a shelf for 6 months. That's really helpful to me to manage the job in my head. And then number two, the thing that we're doing, especially in COVID, is so many things can change in the industry, in pricing, in your own business over the course of a year. So it's so hard to predict like what are things going to cost, what are and also what am I going to want to build at that point? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
we've at that point we've learned so much from all these other projects we've built before, so we can change some stuff. But you know, I think it really helps me to be closer to the build date when I'm designing it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that 10-minute answer answered anything that you asked, but please ask me some follow-up questions if it didn't.
No, I think that was a great summation of what's been going on. And I always think about also like how the client receives the information too about a backlog
Yeah.
and how that affects their decision, because different I would kind of lean towards people who are kind of going with like lower budget kind of cookie cutter, backyards for in
Mm-hmm.
our little world. um they're the ones that are like, oh, you're booked out 3 months, I don't want to wait that long, like I want
Yeah.
this right now. But if you say to like a more high budget, high end client, we're like, oh, we're booked out for a year, sorry, we'll put you on the waiting list. I feel like that almost creates some sort of like exclusivity or some sort of buzz that they like to hear. They like to hear that you're booked out for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So um I don't know if there's anything to that, or if that's just my general feeling,
I think there
I feel like it's
definitely
also something to
is.
weigh if
It
you are tracking your backlog, just something to think about.
Yeah, I think it's And you'll know based on your clients and um, that impression that you get when you tell them how far out you are booked, because like certain things, if it's a lower budget project, and especially if it's something that's really seasonal, like if it's a patio, like there's certain people that are just going to want it, they're going to want to call in March and they're going to want it done before Memorial Day, and like
Yeah.
that is it, they're not waiting past then.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of weigh that out. What projects do you do, and how far out should you be booked? And um, because the other side of that is, like you said, certain people that are doing a higher end project are going to find some positives in that. They're like, oh wow, this is a really exclusive company. Oh, I have to wait a whole year. Plus, they're not going to want to hire somebody that can start next week because they know this is a huge project. We want somebody that has experience and has demand for their services. So
Yeah.
um, it's definitely a double-edged kind of sword there, where there's perks on both sides of it, and you kind of have to figure out what your ideal timeline is based on your business and your clientele.
Yeah. You got to pull the old, well, we're booked out a year, but I just had a cancellation next month, so I can probably squeeze you in there, get you in.
Yeah, just a little bit of lying always works out great. That is, and I
I'm
think
just kidding.
when
Don't
you,
do that.
I mean, you can, it's fine.
Mm.
It's not, no, I don't know. Don't do that.
Honesty is the best policy. I was just kidding.
And what's the second best policy? Is it lying?
Lying, I think.
Okay. All right.
Lying is a close runner up.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. As long as you're going to do a good job, I think, fibbing that a little bit to make yourself seem more. No, you know what? No, don't do that.
We've
You're
gone
right.
off track.
We've gone so off track. Don't do that.
Wasn't it? Do you remember? Who was it?
Wood
I think it
bully.
was Wood Bully who told us the
Yeah.
story on the podcast. So I'm not sharing any sort of bad information, but he said he was going to start a business in a year, so he told everyone he was booked out for a year. Was that it?
Yeah. And it's genius. It really is. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I can't start your project
Interesting.
for a year. I'm booked out. Not going to mention that I'm booked out with my day job that I'm going to be keeping for a year. But what a great way to stir up some buzz. I thought that was genius. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some different like pluses and minuses on the longer backlog you have and the shorter backlog you have. So,
Okay.
a lot of people will say if you're booked out that far, like 6 months, 9 months, a year, that's a number one indicator. You need to raise your prices. You should never be booked out that far, because it gives you that much more time to sell another job at a higher price. If you're booked out that far, you still have leads coming in. You could be booked out 3 or 4 months and maybe not close as many, but you can sell them for more money, and you're still working that whole entire time, but you're making more money because you're selling them at a higher rate.
Yeah.
So I think depending on the style of business that you have, if you're looking to scale, I think that is something super important to consider, because the higher volume you do, the more you're going to be affected by changing things in the industry, like pricing and just like the cost of labor. I mean, like people's pays were going up at a pretty fast rate with like inflation, and during COVID, people were getting paid to stay at home, so it was like you had to pay people a lot more. So being closer to the job that you're going to be doing allows you a lot more flexibility there, and it allows you to monitor what that sweet spot of pricing is. Where, I mean, the goal of pricing it is to sell it for as much as you possibly can, and that's it. And the market's going to kind of tell you what is a legitimate price. You can sell a certain amount of value to be more expensive than somebody else, but you can't just randomly be 50 times more expensive. It's just not going to work. But you have to see kind of what the market is allowing, and you can kind of go with the ebbs and flows of like the economy and the industry a lot smoother when you're closer to the job that you're actually going to be doing. So I think that's a huge perk for a lot of people. What do you think?
Yeah. Did you want me to do another pro or con, or respond to yours?
Sure.
Are we doing like a rapid fire thing here?
Yeah. Just
Um,
Rip one off. Go
All
ahead.
right. Pro or pro, I guess.
Whatever you want.
Pro, gosh, peace of mind. It's so
Yeah.
nice to know you have jobs booked and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
For me, it just, my gosh, my sensitive heart can't handle it. I like to know that there's things
Yeah.
coming in and we don't have to worry about it.
That's really, because I feel like you're not really like a risk averse person, but you're starting to really sound like it.
I'm
You
not.
like that stability.
I'm not risk averse. To well,
Like you'll go on a roller coaster.
oh, for sure, of course, yeah. Um,
See, I don't like roller coasters.
because you're risk adverse, or you just don't enjoy them. Do you think you're gonna die on a roller coaster?
I just don't like not being in control.
Okay.
So like going on a I would, if I could like be driving something that goes that fast and down a hill, I would be way more inclined to do that than sit on a roller coaster. That's probably opening a whole nother can of worms of
Okay.
my own psyche. So
All right, we'll stick with backyards.
yeah.
I very much enjoy that Premiere. We have two sides of the business. We have like all the content stuff, and then we have the actual building stuff. And I love taking risks with the content stuff because we have a very solid, steady building business. So to me, because of the stability of the building business, we're able to do a lot of risky things with our content and that side. So that is where my risk aversion lies, I suppose.
Yeah.
It just gives you a peace of mind, like for me, I also like processes. So it's like, I know we have XYZ booked out. I know 2 weeks from now I need to start that permit process. We have to look at this, this client's going to have a variance and we have to worry about that. Or, it just kind of helps me put my steps in order when I know that there's something there. When I don't, it's kind of like, whoa, what is going to be next?
Who knows? Who knows? You never know at Premier Outdoor what's going to be next. And yeah, I think the peace of mind is definitely a huge pro to be booked out and know that your bills are going to be paid, know that you have work for your employees. And you can, I think it's also better for like more of a boutique business or even an owner operator where you can have this backlog, you can sell all these jobs, and then you don't have to think about it for a little while. So it can kind of be, you don't have to push so hard on sales for a while and you can just kind of focus on the task at hand, which is getting them done. Yeah. So I think for some people that is a huge advantage and it's a good way of going about it. Like making, a certain month, like a big sales push where you sell a lot of jobs and you get them lined up and then you can kind of switch into doing mode where you actually get the jobs done. And I think for some people like me, that can be really helpful because being in both sides of that at the same time, if you don't have, a salesperson that is just doing sales all the time, like if you're wearing a lot of hats, I think it's advantageous to keep each hat on for as long as you can.
Do you think we'll ever hire a salesperson, like a dedicated salesperson? Do you have that vision in your mind at all for the future?
I don't think so. Because I think that's I think part of the appeal is that you're talking to one of the people that's actually going to be there building it. And if you're just everyone else has a salesperson. So I feel like that's the thing that separates us a little bit is it's a different experience. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go out and meet with you after we've talked on the phone. I'm going to do the design and then I'm going to be there every day. And that's definitely not the best model for everybody, for sure. But for us, I think it really works. And I think it's a big differentiator, especially when you're working in a higher end market a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's other companies that are really more on the ball with communication with the client, with especially in the sales portion of it. They are calling you every day, they're emailing you, they're getting right back, like all of that kind of stuff. We can't necessarily be as good as them at that portion of it, but we have the differentiator that this is a little bit different. This isn't a sales guy that's selling me. This is the guy that was there building all these other projects that I saw, and it just feels a lot different. And I think people feel a lot more connected to the project, and they know that I'm more connected to it. So I think that really helps sell some of these bigger jobs. I think people really like that that approach that we have. So, plus we never really want to scale. We just want to build cool stuff. So I think as long as we can continue to keep our filtering process as good as it is, and I'm not super bogged down with sales appointments and stuff right now, and we never really want to get to that volume point of where we're just doing 100 decks a year. So no, I don't think so, at least not right now.
Yeah, makes
Why,
sense
you want
to
to do
me.
sales?
Nope.
Yeah, I mean this as a compliment. I don't think you'd be good at it.
I would be terrible.
You would be terrible at it.
I'm not friendly enough to be in sales.
No, you're not. You're not really good at being fake at all.
No.
You should work on that.
No. I have other things that I'm very good at, and they will carry me through life. I do not need to be good at sales. You're good at sales, so we already have our salesman.
See, there's another hat. I feel like that was a pretty good metaphor or something that I said. When you wear a lot of hats, you should try to keep each hat on for as long as possible. Because if you're constantly switching hats, you're gonna be all confused. You know what I mean?
Great.
Say, this is my day to have my sales hat on, and tomorrow is my day to have my hard hat on, and the next day is...
I've never seen you wear a hard hat one day.
It's a metaphorical hard hat, Catherine. And then the next day is the day where you wear that hat with the little spinny thing on top for like a little silly day.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a great metaphor. You should write that down. It'll go in your memoir.
I definitely should. Yeah, for sure. It'll probably be in like the inside jacket,
Yeah.
It'll be a blurb for sure. You know what's crazy? I feel like in TV, you see those hats all the time. Like nerds wearing those hats with the little propeller on top.
Yeah.
Never seen one in real life. What's up with that?
I hadn't thought about it, but I think you're right.
Yeah.
Great observation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. What else you got on backlog?
I think that's pretty much it.
We're caught up.
We're all caught up on our backlog of this topic, and we got to move on because we got other stuff to talk about.
All right. Well, what do we got next there, Catherine? Do we have our...
Construction news!
I feel like that was the wrong drop. It's supposed to be like a beep, 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 beep. A news thing.
Dang it, you're right.
That was for...
Hang on. That was for something to think about.
Yeah.
Let's do this again. Ready?
Yeah. It's time for construction news.
Construction news.
Coming live from wherever you're at. In your car, maybe.
Yep. Sean.
Yes.
Damn it, they're dismantling all the dams.
Sounds like a big damn problem.
Gosh. Can you guess, in 2023, how many dams were dismantled in the United States?
God damn, I didn't think about it. How many dams were dismantled? I'd say 639.
All right, well, you went ridiculous with it. No, it was 80.
Oh,
I thought that was a lot.
Oh, okay. I mean, how big of a dam are we talking? Are we talking about like a little beaver dam that was just kind of temporary?
No,
are we talking?
No. Big dams. Not the Hoover Dam, but big dams. The government is spending a lot of money because dams, turns out, it seems like they built all of these dams at in a very specific time because they were harnessing hydroelectric power. That's what they wanted to do. But building things in moving water is incredibly expensive to maintain and just kind of ineffective on the whole right now. So there's this big push in the government to dismantle all of these dams, and also, which, it's just kind of failing infrastructure, but also the one that I was reading about specifically there's 4 in Oregon and California right now that they're working on to restore salmon migration. They're trying to help the salmon out, which I thought was surprising. You don't really hear about,
Yeah, nobody's in their corner.
Nobody's in the salmon's corner. Who's thinking about the salmon, really?
I mean, I hate salmon.
Oh, I love salmon. You don't like salmon?
Hate salmon. No.
Delicious.
No, it's not.
Oh, it
It's
is. It
not.
is. It is.
Everyone that says they like fish is lying.
I don't like all fish, but I do like salmon a lot.
No. Mm-mm.
But anyway, so this company they're spending $450 million to dismantle these 4 hydroelectric dams, and they just finished the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And now the salmon can swim freely. But I am on the board of a nonprofit in our town for our local yacht club that is a historic whatever, but it's in the middle of the river, and we recently had to do this like massive revamping of it because when you put something in moving, rushing water, it deteriorates pretty quickly. Like no matter what you do, it's gonna require like a ton of maintenance.
Yeah.
So I saw how much work just went into this, and we're just kind of off to the side in the river, and these actually stop rivers. So I can't even imagine how much just wear and tear on these things happen every year. So it kind of makes sense that they're not necessarily the most economical way to get electricity. So
Yeah.
they're tearing down a bunch of them. And do you know how they do that?
I'm gonna guess dynamite.
That's what I was hoping for, and it's not that.
Yeah, that's probably not like very. That'd probably kill a lot of the salmon that they're trying to help migrate. How do they
probably.
Do it?
They slow the flow of water, and then they just cut little holes in it.
Build another dam?
Yep, temporary.
Oh.
And then they slowly cut holes into it to kind of let the water flow back out to its normal levels, and then they just keep slowly cutting holes in it until it's all the way gone. Which, when I started researching this, I was really thinking it was going to be a dynamite situation, and I was like, this will be cool, but
it'll probably cost a lot less to do that. We'll do it for $250 million. So it was a bunch of dynamite and a couple beers, and they'll be gone before you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Yeah. So if you're in the business of dismantling dams, my gosh, the time is now.
Damn it. I can't think of any more damn jokes, but that's you got to think about it. Like you're trying to stop nature, and that's tough to do. So
it really seems like something that would not have taken off in the first place because like a river's there for a reason, and there's people at the end of these rivers who are like, why are we doing this?
Like, I'm more strong than the river. I can harness Mother Nature.
Yeah. They saw beavers and they were like, oh, you think you can do it with sticks? I'm going to do it with concrete and steel.
Get out of my damn way, beaver. All right. Well, that's very interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Never knew that. Well, thanks for that nice little construction news segment.
No problem.
And now, I'm really not sure what's next, but
we're done here, right? We're done?
Yeah, I think we're probably done because I don't know if it's really time or not for the hardworking happy hour trivia extravaganza worldwide. Super exciting time.
Oh yes.
All right. Well,
let me check my notes. Who won last week? That would be me.
All right. Well, go ahead. You can start off the trivia. And what are we at here? 3-2. You're up 3-2.
3-2.
You're tallying this. We'll have to make sure that we both tally it. So, okay.
I put the dates and then who won.
Yeah, good job. All right, great.
Okay, so I go first.
Yep. Hit me with the question.
What do you want first?
Wait, no. I go first. So I have home field advantage. So I answer the last question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. True or false? More than 3 million new homes were completed in 2023 in the U.S.
Can you repeat the question? How many?
True or false? More than 3 million new homes were completed in 2023 in the United States.
3 million. Are you going to do that thing where it's like 3 million and one? And then it's wrong? Or is this like a ballpark number?
I don't know. You'll have to see. What kind of person do you think I am?
300 million.
No, 3 million.
3 million. No, there's 300 million people in the United States, right? Roughly?
something like that. Maybe I think there's like 380, maybe. But I'm not
350,
sure.
3 something.
It's a good amount. It's a good
3
amount of people.
million new construction homes. It's a big number, but I kind of feel like it might be more. I'm going to go false.
False is correct.
Yeah!
It is approximately 1.45 million homes were built, were completed, because there's a couple different ways to look at it. There's how many new home permits were approved, how many were started, and how many were completed. So I went completed. Approximately 1.45 million homes were completed in 2023. And in 2022, it was 1.39. So it did go up a little bit there.
A
So,
skosh. Okay.
interesting, yeah.
Very interesting.
Good job. Good job.
Thank
Way
you.
to start this thing off. All right, hit me with my question.
Okay. True or false?
Yeah.
Open cell insulation has a higher R value, which means it is a better and more effective insulation.
I almost came up with a couple insulation questions. I don't know why, but then I said, nah, I don't want to do that. And so I didn't do any research on it. Closed cell has a higher R.
Open cell. True or false?
Open cell.
Open cell insulation has a higher R value, which means it is a better and more effective insulation.
True.
That is false, my friend.
I didn't know, and it just seems like open cell.
Closed cell is non-permeable, which means that it has a higher R value.
Well, that seems like the obvious answer, like open or closed. Obviously, be closed. So then I thought you were tricking me, and that's why I picked that. All right, whatever. It's all right. This is more like a psychological game than a construction trivia game.
We're so worried that we're tricking each other.
Yeah. Oh well.
Oh well.
All right.
All right. Next.
Okay. How many acres how many square? I looked up acres first, but I decided to change it to square miles because I thought that would be easier to comprehend. How many square miles in the U.S. are used for lumber production and harvesting? And just I decided to give you a little help on this and let you know that the U.S. in whole is approximately 3.8 million square miles. So now you know how big the United States is. So how many of those
square?
How many of those square miles are set aside for lumber production and harvesting? Is it A, 326,000 square miles, B, 541,000 square miles, C, 814,000 square miles, or D, 64,000 square miles? So just to recap, we got 326, 541, 814, 64. These are thousands of square miles.
Thousands of square miles. I'm going to go D, 64,000.
False. It's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's 814,000 square miles. Can you even believe that? I was going to
go with that. Yeah. That's a lot.
That's like a fifth of the entire landmass of the United States, which is pretty crazy, huh?
That's pretty big.
Yeah, it's insane. So another little fun fact about that is of all of the forest space in the U.S., 67% of it is used for lumber production. And only 9% is preserved. Like national parks and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty interesting. And obviously it's not 67% of the forests are just being completely leveled. This is sustainable forestry, so they are it's a renewable resource, but that much landmass is used for lumber production and harvesting in the U.S. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating.
That is fascinating.
So, all right. Hit me with what you got.
Okay. So, blades. Or sharp, I'll say sharp objects are measured on the Bruckbacher edge sharpness scale. I don't know if I'm saying that first word right. That's not part of the question. It's the BESS scale, and it goes from 1 to 1,000. 1,000 being the least sharp, very dull.
Okay,
so 1 to 1,000. The utility knives that we use every day, what BESS rating do you think that they have? A, a 5, B, 150, C, 300, or D, 650?
Okay, so it's 1 to 1,000.
1 to 1,000.
And huh.
And 1,000 is dull.
Is dull like a dull knife or like a rock?
Not sure.
Okay. It's probably I'm imagining maybe 1,000 is just like a round object is what that's what I'm going to choose to go with here.
Okay.
I think a fresh blade right out of the rip is very sharp. They're very sharp. So what were the options again?
A, 5,
Yes.
B, 150, C, 300, or D, 650?
5.
No.
No? What is it?
150.
Oh, jeez. What's like the most sharp object in the world, do you know?
I don't know, one of those like
Samurai swords?
infomercial knives you see that they're cutting paper with or whatever.
Yeah, probably like the slap chop. Probably the blade on the slap chop is a 1. Huh. Well, that's really interesting. I feel like they're so sharp.
I also felt that way. I thought they would be sharper. But apparently it's very common for like blade like razor blades to be between like 100 and 160 is what I read. But like your average everyday utility knife blade is going to be a 150.
Wow. All right.
So.
Well, I'm excited to I'm going to do a little research, see what the closest to number 1, what's the sharpest thing that we can get?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what it is?
Your mind.
Mine specifically. Just to be clear. All right. Well, geez, I'm really flopping here.
Next.
Okay. Next one. What is widely considered the most dense wood in the world?
Most dense wood in the world. See, I just feel like it's a trick question. I don't know why.
All right. Go with something.
Most dense wood in the world. Walnut? Is it going to be some sort of exotic hardwood that I don't know how to say?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think of hardwoods like ipe, teak, ayus, or however you say it. Black walnut is a hardwood, right?
Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm going to give it to you. It is ipe, also known as Brazilian walnut. So I think we'll give it to you there.
Thank you.
The only object more dense than that, your brain, yours. My brain's sharp. Yours is dense.
A rock up there.
I really don't have a leg to stand on in that argument because I'm really losing pretty bad here. All right, let me get my redemption, my dignity. Give me a dignity question here that I can answer.
All right. I'm trying to think of how this one. This is kind of like a funsies one.
Okay.
But I feel like now it might be too hard.
It doesn't matter at this point. I'm just a huge loser.
That's true. You can't win.
Whatever. Yeah. Okay.
All right. You know Larry Hahn?
Yes, of course. The king.
The king of carpentry.
Yeah.
The founder of Las Vegas or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so Larry Hahn had a unique physical hobby. Not unique in that it is strange, but it is something to be proud of that he picked up well into his adulthood, and he competed in something in this physical hobby 3 times in his 60s. Do you know what that physical hobby is?
If
you want me to give you a hint, I'll give you a hint.
Yeah, give me a hint. Why not?
I didn't actually have a hint prepared. I was just thinking. I want you to get it right.
Okay.
You and him would really get along well. You have not competed in one of these events, but you're close. Yes.
Really?
He ran the LA Marathon 3 times in his 60s.
Wow. Good for him. He was a tall, slender man, very lightweight. So
lends well to running.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. Me, on the other hand, I'm a little too thick. I'm a little too thick to really be an efficient runner, but I do still enjoy it. I do still
You
enjoy it.
you don't run for months and then you run a half marathon just in your garage. So I think that that's something to be very proud of.
It's the will of the mind. It's a powerful thing. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I saw somewhere that he was also a smoker.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I'm not sure about that. So I don't want to spread false things. R.I.P. Larry Hahn, King. If you
One of
haven't
the
seen his
best. One of the
videos,
best.
just so fun to watch. To watch him swing a hammer and sink nails like it is just the easiest thing in the world. It's really, really a thing to watch. So
Yeah.
uh,
And just
it
the
was
way
fun.
that he talks, he's like, he could tell me how to build a spaceship, and I'd be like, this guy knows what he is talking about. He just like seems like he knows. He's got that
Yeah.
calm confidence.
Yeah, and he's not like he's very accessible. He's
Yeah.
very down to earth. It's like, oh, he's not too stuck up about it or anything like that. He's a really one of the first like evangelists of the trades. He was really out there like praising the benefits of being in the trades and showing people how to do things. This was even before YouTube, so he was way ahead of his time, a pioneer for sure. And if you look up Larry Hahn, you can see a ton of his videos, and they're really super interesting. So,
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
All right, well,
All right. Well, you got two. I mean, you got one, and I got two. So
you
I don't know
win.
what that
You win.
means.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna say that this was unfair. I'm just gonna own up to it, and I lost this week, and I'm not proud of it, but. Just wait for next week. There will be impossible questions that no one can answer. So,
Perfect.
yeah. All right. Well, that was fun. I'm having a lot of fun just looking up these questions because it's like, scratching my own itch of like, that's fascinating. And then I get to think of a question and then look up a little bit more backstory to it. So get a
Yeah.
little more, context clues about it. So I think it's been really cool. So hopefully everyone's enjoying that. Let us know. Let us know. Drop us a line. Hit us up with a
Yeah.
little message. We'd love that. We'd love that. But
For sure.
anyway, that's pretty much it for this week. I think it was a fascinating conversation that we had about backlog, and it felt really personal to me because it can be so tied to your emotional state. I feel like that's one of the biggest drivers of that emotional roller coaster of being in business is not knowing when the next job's coming in, especially early on in business. It can be really scary. You can feel like you haven't gotten a call in a week that everything is just going to go up in smoke and you're going to be out of business. So I think tracking it can help you with your own peace of mind, just knowing the trends and saying, okay, last year, August was really slow, but September blew up and we had a ton of leads. So I think leaning on facts like that can help you pull you out of that emotional roller coaster a little bit. And, and it can, the more you look at those numbers and the more you evaluate them, the more you can just make better decisions about your business and your processes. So, good luck to everybody out there. Find what's right for you. And we're still trying to find what's right for us. So, don't be discouraged if you don't have it quite figured out and you're kind of all over the place with that because uh, everything's a work in progress, just like us as humans.
Amen. Great job.
Thanks so much. I forced it a little bit at the end there, but it just felt like it needed something a little profound there at the end. So
you need to round it out. I get it.
yeah, well, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave us a review. Tell a friend about us. Watch us on YouTube. Whatever one suits you. And until next time, this has been the Hardworking Happy Hour.
See you next week.